Roses are red, violets are blue. Norwich City have another injury crisis. What's Johannes going to do? Welcome back, everyone. Jack Reeve, Talk Norwich City. Happy Valentine's Day to all celebrating. I hope you've taken your roses round to Josh Sargent's house and shown Marcelino Nunez, amongst others, some love. They need it at the moment. I'll be taking my chocolates round to Johannes' house later, or not. We've got another issue on our hands, haven't we? Another injury crisis. I might as well just copy and paste these preview videos and just release them every other week, basically. Norwich, when we played Watford, it was a case of like, can we fill the bench with anyone? Jakob Sorensen started that game against Watford. The following week, Jakob Sorensen doesn't even get into the squad because we've got so many players back and everything's looking great again. And then 3 days after, we're once again in a situation where Jakob Sorensen is needing to start another game because Norwich City are in a really tricky situation, particularly in the midfield areas. Marcelino Nunez and Emi Marcondes both unavailable for our trip to Hull City. I should probably mention, shouldn't I? We're playing Hull this weekend. I suspect most of you already knew that. Hull have a horrible home record and are currently occupying the relegation spots in the Championship this season. Nunez, Marcondes, both unavailable. Nunez came back for last week's games, or this week's games, wasn't it? Against Preston and Derby. He kind of hobbled off. He was very unhappy with one of the challenges on him that did look nasty. I think there were some close-up shots of his socks, pretty bloody around the ankle and the kind of foot region. So there's a knock there. And look, they're managing Nunez, they're managing Sargent, they're managing Slimane, all of the people who have returned. They're going to have to be very careful with in regard to their fitness, and look, we can't be rushing them back, and they're not. Marcondes was unavailable last week, and I think he was a big miss, actually. He's also unavailable for this. Kenny McLean was unavailable for the Preston match. He had some difficulties breathing, I think, in the warm-up, and I think this is a bit of an underlying issue he's had for the last few kind of weeks. So he's also a doubt. They need to do some tests for him. So we could be in a situation where our midfield for this whole game consists of Anis Ben Slimane, who is having to be nursed back. I thought looked really tired when he came on against Derby. Jacob Wright, who, look, is clearly a talented player, but is young and is being chucked in the deep end here. And Sorensen, who has been going from starting games to not being in the squad of games over the last few weeks. So real difficulties in that midfield area. I thought we looked kind of devoid of ideas in that game against Preston. I thought we really missed McLean's ability to pick a pass and kind of orchestrate the tempo from the middle of the park. We really missed Emi Marcondes and his ability to... he's kind of drifted in and out of games, Marcondes, and he will go through 10, 15-minute periods in games where he cannot complete a pass, and it's incredibly frustrating. But then he has the ability to unlock a pass through to a Sargent, and his actual goal return and his assists this season have been really impressive. I think it's 4 goals and 6 assists in the kind of Championship this season, and considering he's not played full 90s for a lot of this season, that's really impressive. So he will be a big miss. Gabe Forsyth, a man called Forson, the kind of long-term injuries at the moment, they're still no closer to returning. So I think Johannes said in his post-match interview after Preston, he said that with a fair wind, this Norwich City side could be competing for the top 6 this season. Look, we still are competing for the top 6, but we are going into a stiff gale force northeasterly wind at the moment, seemingly every other week. And just as we find a kind of period of momentum, we get hit with injuries and other things that aren't too pleasant to deal with. With all of that being said, we had a fully fit squad against Derby County and still looked really, really poor, I thought. The Derby game was not great, but it was okay-ish. The Preston game was probably the worst, definitely the worst home performance of the season, potentially the worst performance in general this season, and I'm including that Oxford game on the opening day at the Kassam. It was really, really poor. Hull are struggling. They're struggling a lot at home as well. This is, again, a game in this period that we should be looking to win. And I would have said, after what I thought was going to be a really productive and fruitful week for Norwich at Carrow Road last time out, I felt that we were going to go on a run. I don't feel as confident now. It wasn't that we just got unlucky against Derby or Preston. And I know we conceded a 90th minute equaliser against Derby. It wasn't that at all. It was the complete lack of chance creation I found really baffling. We barely created anything against either Derby or Preston. And to be honest, we barely created anything against Watford in that second half. So that needs to improve. That really needs to improve against Hull and going forwards. Norwich is still within touching distance of the top 6. And I think they're good enough to get there. But we have to snap out of the performances we've seen. Even against, go as far back to Swansea in that first half. Those performance levels haven't been good enough. The biggest frustration for me was I don't really know what the issue was against Preston. It was just all really poor. So they're going to be struggling in the midfield areas. Look, Norwich have won games this season when they've been up against it. The positive is defensively, we're fit. I don't think enough has been said about Angus Gunn's performance levels this season in general, but particularly in the last few weeks. He's ranked basically bottom in terms of the number ones in the Championship, in terms of like the 24 goalkeepers who are the number one selections for their clubs. He's bottom for kind of chances or shots on goal prevented, expected goals prevented basically. So he's in some really poor form, Angus Gunn, and that's a real shame. And look, his future probably lies elsewhere from Norwich, and I can't imagine that that's helped, but that needs to be spoken about. Going forwards, we've now got the options of Science and Jurisic back in the side, so that's a positive. And I think Lewis Dobbins looked really sharp. I suspect it will be Science and probably Dobbin out on the other side, but I really liked the impact. I think that was the positive from Tuesday night was the impact of Matej Jurisic. I thought he looked sharp and pacey, and I liked seeing a winger take his man on and deliver crosses. So we're getting options back in those areas, and of course we know how clinical Josh Sargent can be, and he was taken off after 60 minutes against Preston. So let's hope that he's good and raring to go for a full 90 here. So look, I'm feeling a little bit deflated about everything. We've had a really tough week, in a week that I thought we were back, we were raring to go, and I thought we'd get a couple of wins, and that hasn't happened. McLean, Nunez, Marcondes, all doubts for the upcoming games. It feels like just as we were about to find something, we've been kicked back. So there we go. This is a big game for Norwich City. They need to find wins, and they need to find them quick. We're on the home stretch of this season now, and Norwich need to put a run together if they want to get top 6 this season. They really do. Hopefully, that kickstarts again at Hull this weekend. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'll speak to you all again very soon. Bye-bye.